What up, Challenge fans? This is Final Alliance Podcast. I just watched episode 5 of the Challenge World Championship titled Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Sarah here. If you notice, I don't have my ride or die, my homie Jay next to me. He's out of town this week. Hopefully we'll see him next week. I purposely this week did not take as lengthy of notes that what I usually do, because I find specifically when I'm by myself, I just end up recapping the episode, and that's no fun for anyone. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bounce around a little bit. I'm sure you guys can keep up. So let's do it. Lots of things I liked about this episode. We're seeing more of this legends versus MVPs, which has really created a good storyline. While I love the legends, and I said this last week, and I will say this forever, I've watched the show since Challenge 2000. I keep coming back because I love the legends. However, I would be lying if I said things haven't gotten a little bit stale on the flagship. There's a formula that it seems that a lot of the legends play, being, playing quote unquote safe. Certain people that they will not call their names out. And a lot of, let's have the whole house vote this way. And just kind of everybody goes with whoever's in charge, whoever's running the house. What I'm liking is my survivor peeps. Sarah, Danny, sometimes Ben, sometimes not. They don't want to do that. And that has made it more interesting to me to watch. And in saying that, I was very excited with what happened as far as the stalemate. So we'll get there here in a second. I do want to kind of go through just a few things. So there's 12 teams left so far. This is episode 5. So we're about to the halfway point. Lots of talk in the house about, is it time to make those big moves? Or are we still playing safe? I think at this point, lots of people do want to start thinking about taking big shots, but they could easily continue to play safe for another couple weeks. We see some interviews right away. We see Darrell talking about how he grew up with his man, Crocodile Dundee. He is riding for Australia. However, Kiki is not necessarily at the top of their pecking order. So that did have me worried early on, thinking, were they going to go into an elimination? Because as I said last week, I love Kiki and Darrell as partners, and I was hoping that they would be around more and that we would get to see them more on our screen. So I kind of called my shot last week, and I was very lucky this week that we got to see way more of them. So that was really awesome. Loved it. I will talk about the challenge. This daily was freaking awesome. This looked like so much fun. This looks kind of like a fair ride, like the swings at the fair. It's titled Flying Around. There's 4 excavators, and one player is harnessed, and they fly around, as our man TJ said. Their partner has rings that are, I don't know, I would say about the size of a hula hoop, but thicker. Each team has their own color. Throw the ring to your partner as they pass by. Then as they go to the bin in the center, they essentially disc golf it into the center bin. You get 50 rings. It's just whoever has the most at the end. But TJ informs us before you do this, you have to have this smoothie. Now, it's a green smoothie. I gather it's vegan since their one from earlier in the season was vegan. Saw Tori drinking it. I know it's in her contract that they have to honor her vegan diet. So I would gather it's a vegan smoothie. They only have 2 minutes to drink it, or they get a 5-point penalty. And they are discouraging puking. If you puke, you get a 2-point penalty. TJ doesn't tell us how many points of a penalty it will be at that point. Maybe he did off camera, but us, the viewers, we didn't find that out until it actually happened with people getting the penalty. Do I think having the smoothie was necessary? No. I don't know that it really added a whole bunch to it. Did I like that they were discouraging puking? Yes. Did I like that there were penalty points for not finishing it or puking? Yes. So I like that there was something that created a penalty, but was the smoothie necessary? Another thing I did not care for is, as far as the smoothie drinking, for the most part, most people didn't have a problem with it. We did see it was either Theo and Sarah struggled with it. Zara struggled with it, and that's when Wes told her just to forget it. We'll take the penalty, which we find out later that was a very, very bad call. And then, of course, Amber is throwing up. And from what I've gathered, I think this started filming around October, because I know that it was still filming on Thanksgiving, because I did see some tweets around Thanksgiving time in regards to this show. So being that she's pregnant now, she had to have been very, very early into her pregnancy at this point. Like, probably didn't know yet, maybe like 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Being pregnant myself, I remember what first trimester was like, and if I had to drink something really gross quickly, yeah, that would not have gone well for me. So I feel for her, and it was kind of cute to hear her say, I've been sick for a few weeks. So I'm wondering at what point in the season that's going to come up. Obviously, she will find out she's pregnant at some point. So that did have me thinking that maybe that was going to come up in this episode, that she finds out she's pregnant and then has to go home. So I think that could potentially happen here at the end or at the beginning of next week. But I also think that maybe there's another episode or two before that happens. The skill involved in this is basically timing. The one partner on the ground has to make sure that they time it correctly to toss the ring up to their partner. And then same thing, the person then has to make sure they time it correct when they are throwing the ring into the bin. A lot of teams seem to look like they struggle at this. And by struggled, I just mean there was nobody that got like 40 of them. It seemed like the scores were like 20 or below. And I could be wrong, but that's just what I remember, because I didn't take a whole lot of notes. Kiki and Darrell absolutely killed it. Kiki continues to impress me with her athleticism and timing and just general badassery. So love that. Her and Darrell are amazing. Love seeing their interviews together. I like that Darrell said she was throwing it hard like Tom Brady. It's freaking awesome. So I'm so happy that they won. Obviously, because of the awful mistake of taking the penalty and then not doing well with the rings, we know Wes and Zara are going to go into elimination, which as a Wes fan, I was very concerned about this at the time, because I don't want Wes to go in. It's way too early. I always want Wes to do well. As far as the flagship has gone, I think the last couple seasons have not gone well for him as far as him going home early. I just didn't want this to happen again. Obviously, he just won All-Stars, but he does have a great partner this season. They seem to really work well together, and so the thought of him going into an elimination had me nervous. Still has me nervous because we haven't seen it yet. His elimination record is phenomenal. However, as of late, it's not been so great. So very curious to see how this is going to shake out. It is kind of interesting, though, because Wes is at the bottom. Everyone all of a sudden decides that they want to take a big shot, because Wes, likely or not likely, can take out a big team or put another strong team against Wes. So what people are talking about at this point, there's a couple of different thought processes. So there's the Australia versus Australia theory, and that is what the USA Legends want. So they want Grant and Jonna as a smoke screen. They're not going to go in, versus Yes and Emily, or as the people that get voted in, and then Yes and Emily to go in. Then the USA MVPs and a couple other people, and the Australians want Jordan and Kaz to be voted in. That's who they want to go in, because Jordan and Kaz are obviously a strong team. Ben kind of flips as far as where he votes. They think he's going to vote with the legends. He ends up voting with what Bananas and everybody wanted to do. He doesn't actually, he votes with the legends. He doesn't vote with the MVPs. He doesn't vote with Danny. He doesn't vote with Sarah. He doesn't vote with Justine. He chooses somebody else. Lots of vote rallying. I generally did not care for Bananas this episode. I didn't like the way that he spoke to Jody and Kellyanne when he was trying to get their votes. Something along the lines of, well, if you guys don't want to get voted in again, you should just vote for what we're saying, which I thought was just rude. It's just very cocky. It's very cocky, and it's very, I run this. And don't get me wrong, he has run this forever, but I didn't care for it. I don't like the cockiness, and I'm liking that he's getting put down a couple pets by people like Danny and Sarah. Yeah, so Jody and Kellyanne don't really know what they're going to do. Amber and her partner Troy are another vote that isn't sure what to do. And it just, things get kind of messy in the deliberation to the point where Danny and Tori are the last votes. We had a couple people burn votes. Like Sarah and Theo were an option for somebody. And I can't even remember who else was voted in. But it doesn't matter. So there were a couple burn votes that kind of put things off. And then it came up to Danny's turn. And Tori says, well, if you don't vote yes and Emily, then you'll kind of inadvertently vote Jordan and Kaz. So he votes he votes Ben, I think Ben-Ha and Jody. I don't know. He voted somebody completely different, thus forcing a stalemate, which had me super excited. And at this point, this is where we see the legends getting very frustrated. So Jordan has a great line. He says, everybody wanted to be on the effing challenge, or on the challenge. Now you're on the effing challenge. Let's go. Bananas said, dude, come on. We've never done it like this before. And it made me really excited. It just reminded me of, there's a quote having to do with, if we always do what we've always done, then we're always going to get what we've always gotten. And like I said, the show's gotten a little stale the last couple seasons. And so forcing this stalemate, I think, was phenomenal. But at this point, Jordan's saying, TJ doesn't take kindly to this. We don't know what this is going to mean. Is it going to mean a revote? Because it hasn't happened. So going into elimination, we know that obviously Wes and Zara are going in. TJ shows up, and I don't know if I have mentioned this yet, but TJ's outfits this episode were phenomenal. He looked so great in the button-up at the challenge. Then he had a suit on at the elimination. Just cannot clap enough on how wonderful you look this episode, Teach. So whoever was in charge of that, awesome. TJ then informs us that the winning team is going to be the team that has to decide who goes in, which I like this. Let me know if you were thinking this was the way it was going to go, but I kind of felt like that was what was going to happen, because it's not like a situation where it was the team, it was the people who won and that couldn't decide. It was everybody else. So I like that Darrell and Kiki get to make a decision. I obviously did not like that it ended on a cliffhanger because I need to know. But I think this is good. So they're obviously not going to go and making predictions. They're not going to go anybody from Australia. They're definitely not going to go Amber and Troy because those are like their number ones. Darrell has quite a few relationships. And he does not like to show his cards, especially not this early. Darrell's very big on, I don't want to make enemies. So what I think he's going to do, and let me know if you think that this is the direction it's going to go. I think since there's just the one team left from Argentina, even though he has a relationship with Jody, because they've known each other for years, I think he's going to vote in Ben-Ha and Jody. The other bet, maybe that he could do Kellyanne and Tristan for kind of the same reason, because they've been down as well. But I think it's one of those two. I know him and Kellyanne in the past have not been the closest, but that was long time ago. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Little bummed that there wasn't the elimination, but I think that this is just continuing to create this storyline of MVPs versus legends, and I'm here for it. I can't wait to see what happens. As far as categories for winning the episode, I think I'm going to do the same thing as I did last week. I think Danny is one of our options for winning the episode because of how he's leading the game and he's leading the story and putting a little pressure on the legends. I also think Kiki could win the episode because if it wasn't for her awesome throws, her and Darrell wouldn't have won. She also had an amazing chug, and I'm a big fan of Kiki. Lost the episode. I have to give it to Wes just because that wasn't a good... I can understand how he thought in his head that was a good strategy, but it just didn't work out. I do appreciate that he messed up. That's one thing about Wes that I love is he's always going to say, look, I messed up. He's not going to try to pretend that he didn't mess up like some of our younger challengers these days. Best line, I think, it's got to be the Jordan from, and it's been in all the previews as well, that everybody wanted to be on the challenge. Now you're on the challenge. Let's go. That was great. And then cringeworthy moment. I guess Ben had kind of a weird interview after he changed his vote where he said something about like bricks and plywood and let's rebuild. And he had just kind of a strange expression. So I kind of cringed at that because I was like, well, that was weird. So Ben, I guess I'm going to give you the cringeworthy, but it doesn't mean I don't enjoy you a lot. Oh, you know what? I take that back. You know, Kiki was having a moment in the beginning of the episode. She looked so cute. She had this little orange top on with like army print pants, and she's cleaning because the kitchen is messy. And Emily and Grant are visiting with each other, and Grant calls her an airhead. And I just thought that was really freaking rude. I'm like, why is that necessary? I'm not a fan of people just sitting snickering, like calling people names. It's not cute. So yeah. Grant, you got my cringeworthy moment because you're better than that. I also did like that Kiki later said in her interview that, you know, let's not forget me and Troy are the ones that won Challenge Australia. So we're the ones that deserve to be here over the other two. Love that. Love that for her. So, I mean, that's the episode. Another one that was very quick. I do have one other thing to say. So I am not a Survivor fan. I don't really have anything against it. I just haven't watched the show. And so I don't really know a lot about the backstories of the people from Survivor. But I did notice that Sarah had a shirt that had like the state of Iowa on it. It said like Iowa want another drink or something like that. And I think it was like a craft beer kind of shirt. And that, I don't know if you guys know this, but we're in Iowa. We're in the Quad Cities. And so I had to look her up. I'm like, why is she wearing an Iowa shirt? That's just unique. We just don't see that on TV very often because we're, you know, a state that people tend to forget about, sadly. Yeah, we'll wave at you when you fly over us. So I looked her up and she's from Muscatine, which is like 20 minutes from where we're at. She works in Cedar Rapids, which is like an hour and 20 minutes from where we're at. So that's really cool. Small world. Makes me love ya. I mean, I'm loving how you're playing this season. Last season, I wasn't so sure. This season, you are killing it, Sarah. And I'm a huge fan now that you're like, I don't know, just that connection of you being Iowa also. I'm into it. So that's pretty cool. Go Hawks. As far as tea goes, Not a whole lot this week. The big thing was the show Yellow Jackets, which is on Showtime. There was a clip from the challenge. So there were teenagers watching a television show, and it was the challenge, and it happened to be the Bananas Backpack episode. So you see, you know, on the screen, you see Derek cheering, and you see the Bananas Backpack. And so that was really freaking cool. A lot of people are into it. I am too. Love anytime they talk about the challenge and something outside of the actual challenge. So that's freaking cool. Also saw that Bananas opened a boxing gym in Florida for his opening. Tori was there. Josh was there. So wish him the best of luck with that as well. And that's really all I have this week. Yeah, I think that's it. So I went through it really quick. Can't wait to see what happens. I mean, judging by the preview next week, doesn't look like Theo's going in because him and Danny get into it in the preview. So Theo and Danny, I think their teams are safe. Looks like Bananas and Justine are in the preview as well. So very curious to see the direction Darrell and Kiki go. And I hope my man Wes stays. Hoping Wes and Zara stay. Fingers crossed to that. But we won't know until next week. So we'll see. Follow us on Twitter, Final Alliance 1, Instagram, Final Alliance, on YouTube. We are Final Alliance Podcast. Please comment, subscribe. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, we're Final Alliance Podcast. Thanks for watching.